Hello everyone and welcome back to the Belgian Beer Brothers channel. I am Cedric here in Antwerp and today we're gonna talk about another American beer. We are gonna talk about Kveik IPA from Boulevard breweries. We have talked about the brewery before, so I will just link to that video or to the playlist. So we can actually jump right into the beer. Now, I immediately want to say that I really love this can. I will upload the label or the design somewhere, but I absolutely love this rather busy yet minimalist Scandinavian theme. And of course, that Scandinavian theme comes from the Kveik yeast that was used. This beer started out as a test brew somewhere late 2021, I believe, so it's not the youngest of beers. It is past its due date, disclaimer right off the bat, and it is an IPA, so some alpha iso acids will have degraded and some aroma will have been lost. However, it is in a can, and that brings me joy and high hopes because one of the great catalysts for degrading aroma is UV light, and a can is not influenced by UV light, or at least the beer in the can is not subject to UV light. So we'll see in a minute whether that has influenced the beer or not, or in which amount. It is no longer in production, and I have no idea why. Was it not popular, or I don't know. However, it is of course a bit out of their comfort zone. Now, we know that Stephen Powell's created more beers that were out of their comfort zone. For example, the Tank 7, which is their most iconic and most successful beer. However, this is something slightly different. It is also technically a saison or a farmhouse ale. They did use the Hornindal yeast from Norway, and Hornindal is a Kveik yeast, and a Kveik yeast is by definition a Norwegian sort of farmhouse ale yeast, a saison yeast, which means that it is able to ferment quite quickly, or at least specifically the Kveik yeast is able to ferment quite quickly at high temperature, which is a home brewer's delight, by the way. This also means that the basis beer should be, or would be, rather dry, thirst quenching, and those are two things that I really love. So let's find out. Now, it's still an IPA, so technically this is a dry hopped saison, something that I've been wanting to make for a long time. I'm very curious as to how they came about this. Now, I do know that there is a fuck ton of hops in this beer. The malts that have been used are also quite diverse. They used pale malts, amber malts, but also wheat and oats. But the hop bill is quite cool. They hopped the Brew with Columbus, Eldorado, Azaka, Mosaic and Citra cryo hops. So it will be quite fruity, citrusy, quite tropical. But then the dry hop bill also contains Mosaic, Simcoe, Idaho 7, Sabro and Strata. Now, we already know that Idaho 7, Sabro, these are all tropical fruity hops, very aromatic hops. And I didn't know the Strata hops, so of course I peeked online. And this is said to have mainly a strawberry flavor. Now, confession time, I hate strawberries. Well, hate's a strong word, but I'm not particularly fond of strawberries. So we'll see how dominant that taste is. Nonetheless, let's have a taste. This is the ideal chance to bring out my small Boulevard glass. This is a 25er instead of a 33. Why? Because this is a pint, this is a 16-ounce can, and that fits perfectly into this glass twice. Again, love this can. So a 9%, they call it an Imperial IPA, I believe, but technically it's a dry hopped saison or a farmhouse IPA or whatever you want to call it. Ooh. Right off the bat, very, very, very aromatic, very smooth, sweet, fruity, quite tropical. But also a bit malty, which is surprising. I do get a lot of fruits here. I do get the strawberries, but I don't know if that's conditioning or it's really there. I do get some mango, pineapple, some berries. Okay. Interesting. Smells rather fresh as well. Ooh, that is not the color that I expected. Well, they have used amber malts, but I still expected this to be paler, maybe a bit clearer. And most of all, not so orangey copper colored. It's a beautiful color, very hazy. Nice, yeah, gold orange copper color. Some lovely dense foam, quite small tiny bubbles, and the foam is also quite orangey, beigey, off-white kind of. Yeah, and this is immediately where the Sabro and the Mosaic and the Idaho 7 hops come out. All those aromas are exploding now. And what actually comes as a surprise to me is that they've used the Citra hops in the brewing step, the cooking step, and not in the dry hopping step. And Citra is a very dominant aroma and flavor and scent, and I don't get hardly any Citra in here. So not even that lemon lime zest, edgy. So well done. But honestly, ever since Duvel dry hopped with Citra, everyone's using it, and I got tired as fuck of Citra. Yeah, very, very fruity, very sweet as well. So time for a taste then. Okay, let that sink in for a moment. Yeah, I do get the dryness, the lack of leftover sugars, which I find awesome. I also get a whole lot of aromas, quite fruity. As expected, of course. Now, first thing that springs to mind is the bitterness, the dryness. Absolutely lovely, fair amount. But the next thing that I notice is a very odd mouthfeel. How should I explain this? It's not dense as in sugary or sweet or whatever. I want to say syrupy, but it is quite dense, and it lacks a bit of carbonation, let's say. Well, it is there, but they are very tiny mini bubbles, hardly noticeable, and that adds to the feeling of like being infused with a fruit juice, like a Brussels Beer Project Juice Junkie or something. Now I know that they haven't infused this with juice, but it does have that similar mouthfeel. Very, very weird, very odd. That's not necessarily a negative. Also medium to full mouthfeel. Yeah, covers all bases, all edges. Very nice. Not sticky at all, but of course, when you lack leftover sugars, you tend to not have a sticky beer. And I can't emphasize this enough. I absolutely love this dry bitterness in the back of the throat. The thing that makes you like squeak a bit. Absolutely great. Combined with the aromas, the flavors of those very fruity exotic hops. I can imagine that this was a very fun test brew to tinker around with. And it's a bit like sweet and salty, or sweet and savory, let's say. A very, very nice combination. Now, bearing that in mind, I think I would love to pair this with a white fish, for example, or cheese plates. Actually, I do get a bit of fruity flavors here. Still the stone fruits, the mango. And as promised, the strawberry it's present, but it's not dominant at all. It's actually quite balanced. It's a flavor explosion. It's very strong, and it goes all over the place. But it is so nicely balanced out. It's actually a meal in itself. I heard one guy say it's like tasting tasting sunglasses. I chuckled when I heard that, and he's not wrong. Like, this beer takes me straight to Arco or Calpe, where I can sit by the water with a beer like this under a palm tree, looking out at the sea and the forests and the mountains. So yeah, this really brings back a lot of holiday memories, and this really gives me holiday feelings. So again, Boulevard, absolutely job well done. And even though I am not a great fan of IPAs, now I do enjoy the occasional IPA, but you guys know by now that I'm not an IPA fanatic. Even though the IPA component, the hops, the aromas are so present here, I am still leaning towards like a 4 for this beer. And I do think that I can even convince my non-saison loving friends of this beer. The ones that go, ugh, it's so bitter. I think with these aromas and this fruitiness, I can even convince them to drink a saison or a farmhouse ale every now and then. So, okay, very pleasant surprise, even for an overdue IPA. This amount of aroma, yes, very surprising. I don't think that time actually degraded that much. So let's leave it at that. I'd say if you guys can get your hands on one of these, do so, but it's no longer in production. I think that I have one of the last ones in existence because I'm that idiot that forgot to drink the IPA. But yeah, this just motivates me to taste more of Boulevard's beers. So, already being a fan of Tank 7. I'm gonna leave it at that. As usual, if you have any questions, any remarks, any ideas, leave them down in the comments. If you want to see more, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and you will get notified. And do me a favor, if you like this review, however short, just give me a like. Cheers, you guys.